everyone, welcome to another episode of On Campus. I'm Ana Petero, and here with me is one of our stars from Solano Community College, Angel Robbson. Angel was one of our actors on our most recent production here at Solano Community College known as You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Angel, thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having
coming
me.
and hanging out. Boy, I watched your show. It was live. It was brilliant, and you played Snoopy.
I did. It was grueling to be a dog, but I had fun.
Oh my gosh, tell me about the process doing this in COVID.
Yeah, it was a challenge. It definitely really different than most of the theater because I've been doing theater since I was like 6. Wow. And the whole process of just starting through the auditions, doing that online and through Zoom and submitting videos to going into the rehearsal process, which is all through Zoom, except for maybe 1 or 2 in-person rehearsals before we went straight to being on campus and doing the show.
When you were on Zoom, it was kind of just like a typical class. Yeah. Did you all have your lines and were you ready that way? How'd that work?
Basically what Manny had done was...
And Manny's our...
Christine Manny is the director for Your Good Man, Charlie Brown.
That's right.
And also the wonderful theater teacher here at Solano.
She did all the painting and did so much work,
Yeah,
right?
she worked her butt off.
And so you put the script together and you practiced your lines on your own, and then how did you do that through Zoom?
Our rehearsals were mainly in the evenings, and she would call in both casts since we were split up by the Woodstock cast and then the Wah-Wahs. So we would all come in and run through the different vignettes since You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown is more so vignettes taken straight from the comics than your traditional musical where it's going through a scene and then a number and scene and then a number. It's just those short little vignettes, pretty quick. And we had our own scripts, either on PDF or printed. I just find it easier to print because highlighting and scribbling, I'm very anal about my paperwork. And then we just went on to Monday through Friday. It was on Zoom, same way as how we're doing our classes right now online. And we would run through the show. On Sundays, Berkeley Russo, who was our music director, would work with us individually in breakout rooms to run our solos, run our harmonies for group numbers. We had a Google Drive that kind of just had all of the information for the show, and it was just, it was all over the place.
Oh, but did you have glitches, and that's with all of that,
yeah,
right?
It was a new folder for everything every other week, but we somehow were able to make it work, and it worked.
How long was rehearsals? Were rehearsals?
We were in there. How long did you rehearse? From like 5 o'clock till about 9 p.m. and then on the weekends we would do 1 o'clock to about 5.
My word. And for how many weeks before the show
started? I'm trying to remember when I first started the show because it went by so quick. We did the auditions in was it January? I believe it was around January, and then we started rehearsal process beginning of February.
So you only had 2 months to rehearse through this whole new format. That was amazing. So in this, what would you say that's the biggest thing that you learned about this form of rehearsal and putting a program together down to the performance? We haven't even talked about that yet.
Time management was really big because obviously we had our rehearsal process, but we would go home and we would have to find the time to work on it ourselves and remember our lines, remember our choreography, because our choreography was also taught on Zoom, which is a whole other issue because of like the mirroring of the camera.
Wow, that's challenging, huh? I mean, so many dynamics together that you don't have in a live theater.
Right, because we're there in person, we can see ourselves on the camera. Normally it's a lot, I wouldn't say easier because theater in general is complicated.
Absolutely, yes. So when you went from there practicing online and practicing through Zoom, and then how often did you get to rehearse in person before you actually did the show? Because you did it all with masks too,
in-person rehearsals, I believe we only had about 2 or 3 before we had tech.
Wow, what's tech?
So tech week is, normally in theater we have like a tech week where you're on the stage using the mics in costumes. Our tech was technically 2 days, but because there's 2 casts, it was split into Woodstocks for the one day and Wah-Wahs for the next day, and then we went straight into previews. So we went on campus, we were in costumes, we checked our mics, ran through the show as if it were a full run through, and then the next day we went into previews and then the show.
Man, and then you had to be masked. So how challenging was that? Let's
Very.
start with that.
Lots of cardio.
Lots of cardio,
it was
right?
required for us to do a lot of cardio. Manny had like a workout video for us to work through,
man.
and she's like, make sure you wear your masks, make sure you're dancing in your masks, you're singing in your masks, because we have to work on mics or not, you still have to project because we're
Right.
outside, there's the wind, and then we're in our masks.
Yes,
So-
and then enunciate through the mask, right? Which is something that one would learn in a public speaking class, right?
Right.
Enunciate, articulate, exaggerate, but also in theater, because you would typically have the stage and you open up your mouth and project.
Right.
Here you have to project through a mask on top of that. So if you're looking through a mask, what do you think that what would one look for as an audience member, because you have the performances and everything? We're talking earlier about eyes and shoes and all that. So how did that all work?
Because these characters are obviously animated cartoon from a comic,
Yeah.
classic cartoon characters, Manny was kind of making sure to hone in on the fact of our physicality, drawing emotion. If Sally is sad, Snoopy is hungry, Charlie Brown's sad and feeling lonely. We had to really exaggerate to the almost extremes to get the emotions across for our characters, since we had that issue of wearing the mask and no one being able to see our face. We only really have our eyes and our eyebrows to kind of express our feelings,
ourselves,
yeah.
right? Isn't that fascinating? There's studies that say that 93% of communication, approximately 93% of communication is nonverbal. So you really have to, like, talking about emphasizing your eyes and your eyebrows, like where our eyebrows are formatted tells us how we feel. Like, are we angry? Are we happy? Or, just all of those. And so, and our gestures and our body language, like you said, how many different ways can you express sad? For example, right?
As far as I could count, maybe 4 or 5, but maybe that's just me needing to work on my acting.
But so now that we have to dig into ourselves, like, because you can't see my face and you can't see me smiling, how do I express that physically? Right? Is it with our shoulders down, or like how many different ways did you practice sadness? Like, how did you go? What was your process?
A lot of crying. I mean, in the pandemic, it was always a lot of crying anyways, because I just missed in-person theater.
Yeah.
But definitely our voice as well played part in kind of supplementing our physicality.
Yeah.
Just because, of course, you can sit here and shrug your shoulders and I'm sad and I'm grumpy, but then you also have to play into your tone of voice and your intonation when you're speaking your lines or singing the song in the show. So
Yeah, because you can't be cheerful in your tone if you're sad, right? And then you have the words that go along with it. Wow, fascinating. So how many shows have you done here on campus before Charlie Brown?
this was my first Solano show.
This was your first Solano show.
Yeah.
And your first Solano show was COVID. What an experience.
It was something.
Man. So, we went through the audition process, and there were two of you Snoopies, and you had 2 shows, and they were both live, which is great because you don't have to, a show is it's live theater, not a television show, right? And I think that was important to Christine Manny, that you all had a live show.
Right.
So translating that, is your major theater?
Yes, my major currently is theater.
Yeah. Why theater?
I love connecting with people. I love telling stories. Theater is really cathartic for me because I'm such an emotional person.
Yes.
And so I find theater is the best way I can express myself and kind of dig deeper into, I guess, finding myself.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's like a lifetime journey everyone goes on.
absolutely.
But the more I do a show and I play these characters, I take a part of them with me,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
And do you put part of you into it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's therapy almost, right? And it feels good to speak something, and then I wonder if it feels like it's in a safe place because you're doing somebody else. But maybe this is how you would feel. So maybe empathy as a person poured into this character to build and then reconnect with it.
Absolutely.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
What are you going to do after Solano? Well, first of all, how much longer do you have at Solano, and what are your aspirations?
Question of the semester, how long do I have left
Yes.
here? I'm supposed to be done, I believe, in the fall, so I'll probably be taking maybe 2 or 3 more courses in the fall while I'm applying to 4 years for transfer, because that's what I'm kind of doing right now is the Associates for transfer. My goal is Howard University, hopefully. If not, I would love to go to UCLA or apply to UC Irvine
Yes.
because their theater programs, their musical theater programs specifically, are amazing.
Outstanding. Well, thank you so much for dropping in and joining us.
Thanks for having
and
me.
telling us, a little about your experience. Now let's go to your classes. How's that been? Taking classes on top of theater. I mean, your schedule must have been just out of control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard doing full-time online, and then I'm also working part-time too. So it was really hard to just balance eating, going to class, going to rehearsal, going to work, paying my credit card bill, because that got really hectic in the beginning of the semester, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
So it was a challenge, but I made it work somehow.
Well, you said at the very beginning, time management. That's so key. I think you think about a lot of students and us just doing life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the most important thing is using our time, because before we know it, it's gone. And time is the one thing we don't ever get back. So managing it is like from the time you wake up until the time you go to sleep, what are you doing? And the most important thing is make sure you have time for yourself. So when you're preparing all of your schedule and your work schedule and your school schedule, first identify what's my free day. And then just work around that. And you'll find that you have so much time, especially with, you have life. You have to work, you're going to school, you're preparing to transfer, and you're in theater, and you're taking classes and trying to survive that.
Yeah.
And so what advice would you have for students who are coming into the fall, now that you're getting ready to transfer, and how to cope with all of these challenges that you have?
Ooh,
as a student?
that was a loaded question. Bullet journaling, I would
What's
say.
that?
Like getting an agenda
Yeah.
and just going through planning out for the day. I just found it helped me the best this semester. I have really bad ADHD. And so time management is a big issue for me. And I didn't realize that like one of the best coping skills for me at that time was going through, what do I have due today? What do I need to do for me?
Yeah.
Obviously, because self-care is so important.
Yeah.
And then also, what am I responsible for? Because obviously, as you're going into community college, you're focusing on your classes, but other adult things happen in the meanwhile, like paying off your credit card or getting a car, paying for your classes, getting a job. I would say be gentle on yourself.
Yes, we are. We're very hard on ourselves, right? Yeah, and then take time for yourself. You're adulting. It's so funny, the millennials call it adulting. That's what we've been thrown into, right? So if you've learned, aside from time management, what's the biggest thing that you've learned this whole year? What has COVID taught you besides time management?
COVID has taught me expect the unexpected.
Yes.
Be prepared for anything and everything.
And take time to laugh at yourself and enjoy life, right? I have so many students that are getting ready to transfer to university, and I tell them the same thing. Enjoy college. It's supposed to be enjoyable. Learn as much as you can, but also take time for yourself.
Right.
Absorb, like what, because you come out of so many classes, you go, what just happened? And you graduate from college, I have this degree, I have this receipt that said I'm qualified to do something. What did I learn? So, but if you go through the process and you absorb what you're going through and enjoy, it's like, what did I learn from this? Like, just having gone through COVID, how have you changed in the last year? You've probably matured so much beyond your years because you had to manage so many things, right? And like you said, don't lose time away from yourself. Self-care is so important. And your generation is changing the world. You're amazing. You're Gen Z, and you are. Because you have no choice, right? This is the world that's been handed to you, and look at what you did with it, right? From January, I'm going to be in this show. And I did all this work to get onto the show, and it was fantastic. And in the meantime, you're going through all of your classes, and you're working, and you're paying off your credit cards. You're ready. Yeah, you're living life, and your generation's changing the world. And I'm so proud of all of you. You're going to take good care of us when we get old. I always think, you invest in education is investing in your retirement, because what you're going to do is come out of there and contribute to the economy with your fabulous theater. And look at how much you're going to change the world with just your voice. Yeah? Anything else you'd like to add to this? Thank you so much for coming.
Nothing else that I can really think of. I think I talked in circles today, but
You did. Oh, you're just so wonderful. Thank you so much for coming out. I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
At UCLA or Howard wherever you land, and you're going to be doing so many great things. The one thing I want to leave you with is, as you're going through this life as a young person, don't let anybody diminish the value of your experience. Okay. Thank you so much, Angel, for joining us. Thank you for joining us all. This is Ana Petero coming at you from Solano Community College with another episode of On Campus. Join us next time as we have more guests, and we'd like to wish Angel Robbson good luck in the fall and in your future endeavors.